Warning, this podcast, website, and associated social media accounts are intended for audiences of legal drinking age. We do not advocate overconsumption or the abuse of alcohol. Never drink and drive, drink responsibly. And please remember to always take what we say with a grain of salt. After all, we are just some dudes with some brews.
We started out by crawling out from under the thumb of the man. The lovers of God with dad bods, just trying to feed our fam. Go sit right there and grab a beer, you know just what to do. Throw it back, get hammered, and listen to dudes and brews. I want to say thanks for coming out and helping me brew for the second time.
Yeah.
Your knowledge and your expertise has been invaluable. I know you tend to hold back on what you think you know, but you know a lot more than you give yourself credit for.
Well,
For
you know,
sure.
there's there are people that know way more than I do. So,
I mean, and maybe that's why you think that you don't know that much, but you're a level ahead of me.
well,
So for me, it's like I said, it's invaluable.
sure. Well, glad to help, and you know, it's there's a term for it. There's a I can't think of what it is. It's a basically, if you know a little bit about something, you tend to think you know more than you really do.
Yeah.
And as you really learn more about that particular topic, you tend to start to realize how much you don't know.
Right.
And how vast the topic is, and homebrewing is
And that's where
absolutely,
you got.
oh my gosh, there's so much to think about. It's I used to think it was super easy, and it is.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get into, to the point that it's like, man, I should have figured this out in high school, right? I mean, probably wouldn't be here today if I did.
Right, but figured it out earlier in life for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. And now I'm like, holy cow, there's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm right there with you as far as it's not only fun, but it's like, because I like to cook too. And I feel like this correlates to cooking, and like when you make a meal and you see somebody else's reaction to it.
Oh, it's great.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
So like, it's not only do I like enjoying it, I like sharing the beer with others so that I can get their reactions and see, did I do a good job, or am I out of my mind?
No doubt. And it's very satisfying if you brew a beer, and especially, you know, most of our friends.
Yeah.
What do they drink? They're not drinking the super, you know, strange craft beers.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's you know, the typical Coors and Miller and whatever.
Right.
And so to take something to them and have them be like, oh, hey, this is actually really good.
Yes.
You know, it's like, wow, that's really sasatisfying.
Like, honestly, that's one of the goals, is to get people away from, like, my buddy Brian likes to call them lake nectars. Get people away from lake nectars and into craft beer.
Yeah.
Even if it's something like a cream ale or even a craft lager.
Right.
For instance. I mean, because that's what this is, right? A craft lager.
Yeah.
So explain what this is again.
Tell
me what you put into it.
That's a Vienna lager. So it's, probably the closest commercial thing would be like a Negro Modelo.
Okay.
You know, so it's a very light, it's a light lager, very drinkable.
But it's not a clone.
It is and it isn't. I mean,
okay.
That's a true category, Vienna lager. So
no, I just didn't know if you were trying to clone Negro Modelo specifically.
I kind of am, but I've kind of gotten away from that initially. I've done Vienna lager clones, I think, since I started brewing, because that was one of my favorite beers. I like to, you know, I've always kind of liked something with a little more flavor. You know, I'm not a huge light beer fan, you know, so the Negro Modelo had enough flavor, the maltiness, but not so sweet that it's overpowering. It builds up. I liked those. So, I wouldn't call this a clone because I think I'm a little off on it.
I mean, you're
just
telling me
personally.
that you messed up.
Yeah.
I don't really taste a whole lot of it. So, what did you call it? You said that there's some sort of fancy name for how you messed it up.
Well, so I made a mistake somewhere, and honestly, I'm kind of in the process of trying to figure out what may have caused it. And there's a number of things that could have led to it, but it's called people who know more than I do call it. It's diacetyl, So for me, I'm like, hey, that doesn't taste quite right.
So that's what the off flavor is called.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, my, abbreviated description of that is basically, it's as the yeast start to get very active, they create diacetyl as part of one of the things that they do.
Okay.
And then the way it's supposed to work is as they start to tail off, they eat the diacetyl back up.
Oh, so in this case, it sounds like they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
So it's like they partied too hard and didn't do the rest of their job. They didn't clean up afterwards or whatever.
They got tired or I don't know.
What do they call it?
Something didn't turn out right. So what you're supposed to do with this? So a lager, is typically fermented in the 50s.
Okay.
Maybe even lower. A lot of times you'll work it down, but at the end of the fermentation, typically you'll crank it back up, into the 60s. Some people even say up to 70, and that excites the yeast back up again to eat up all that diacetyl. And it's supposed to kind of finish everything out, clean it up, and so forth. And it's a common thing for my first lager. So I'll have to keep working on it. But
no, I think it's good. I know that you mentioned earlier. You said something about green beans. I may be off
about that.
Well,
little.
So there's a scale that we like to look at that gives like different flavor like smells. Like what does this fall under?
Right.
And I feel like when you mentioned green beans, until you said that, I go, okay, I could see how it falls under more the vegetal category.
Little bit. I think diacetyl is more
I'm not
often
saying
described.
That that's bad, but
No, it's definitely there. And I've already finished mine. So obviously it's drinkable, right? I mean that's the thing.
I'm drinking. It's good.
I've never done a homebrew beer that I've had to throw out. Even if it was, I can only drink one of these at a time. I've never wasted any. I'll just switch to something else. But this isn't quite even that bad. I think it's just there's a little bit of it there. Some people also describe it as a buttery kind of flavor.
When you mentioned that, I was like, I have to keep my mind away from mouthfeel because it's not going to be a buttery mouthfeel.
Right. Yeah.
But you get something on the back end. And honestly, if you wouldn't have told me anything, I would have never guessed. I'd have been like, it's a good beer.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I mean, I'm a semi-nerd when it comes to beer. I'm not that.
Yeah.
That like my palate's not that refined that I can taste all flavors.
Yeah, mine isn't either yet. I'm working on it. More experienced people than me kind of were able to point out what it actually was.
Oh, I got you.
So, I tend to lean on the folks that are more experienced,
right?
Which
makes me want to bring the beer that you're drinking. I want to bring that to them.
Yes,
because I feel like there's something off with that.
Make sure you save a few bottles.
Okay, yeah, I'll to a bottle of you.
Yeah,
because I want to see what's wrong with that. And I think it's because, honestly, I didn't pasteurize the fruit, and I let it sit in the secondary for too long, and it started to go bad. To be honest, it started to
that may be
funk up a little bit.
That may be. I had another one that went off, and that was very much a pronounced vegetal, and that was for me. It was just, I didn't take the dry hops out after, 4 days or so. And so it sat in there for 2 weeks,
right?
And now that starts producing off flavors.
That's what happened there. Yeah. I kept those mangoes in there for a full 2 weeks when I think I probably should have left them in there for 7 days, maybe.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I probably should have went ahead and kegged it after 7 days.
Yeah.
Instead of leaving it in there for 2 weeks, because then it's like I said, they started to go bad.
But again, it's still a very drinkable beer.
Drinkable.
There's nothing, nothing wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not what we're looking for, right? It's not what
Right.
our goal is. And so, I mean, that's part of it. Like with any hobby, you try to get better at it.
Yeah.
And so you try to identify where you messed up and correct that in future batches.
Right.
And,
So, what was
part
the
of the fun.
first beer that you ever brewed?
First beer I ever brewed actually was I started out with extract stuff, right? So
And you were doing like the liquid extract
yeah,
or the dry malt.
it was I think it was just liquid,
Okay.
the liquid,
Like
because
the
I started
syrup.
going to Homebrew headquarters, and they would have those big 55-gallon
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
drums of, they had light and medium and dark,
Yeah.
and so mostly it was light. And then the first batch I did though was actually a Negra Modelo clone.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it turned out really good, but it, obviously at that time I'm brewing on my my stovetop,
Right.
and fermenting in a closet, so I had no ability to do fermentation control, right? Temperature
I
control.
still don't do temperature control. I mean,
Right.
Closet is controlled enough for me. I mean,
Right. So that means you have to do, pick a very clean yeast that's an ale yeast.
Right.
Right. And it turned out great.
Right.
There was a little, it wasn't quite right. Right. There was, thinking back to how that one tasted after a couple of weeks, man, I was thrilled with it. It was like, okay, it tastes, I definitely taste some yeast, because I was still getting used to, homebrew, and I probably did some things wrong with
Yeah.
it. But man, I loved it, and my friends did too. It was like, oh, hey, that's pretty good. Especially you put a lime in it, it covers up a
Right.
lot of off flavors. So,
Oh, it's crazy, man. Like I honestly, so I'll tell you this. It was during the holidays. I went to like a Barnes and Noble or something, and saw that they had like Mr. Beer kits,
yeah,
and that got me to looking into doing home brewing. And I bought a kit off of a Northern Brewer, and honestly, I
Okay.
used Northern Brewer for the longest time. The first one, and I keep, because when they send you because I started with extract batches too, and I did the dry malt extract.
okay,
And they would send you a recipe kit and give you all the instructions. Well, I've kept every single one of those. So today, when I was getting stuff out, I ran across it and I looked at it and I go, the first one I brewed was actually a brown ale, not realizing that it was called Caribou Slobber,
oh, nice, yeah.
and it was all right.
That's a clone of Moose. Is it
I didn't realize it was
Moose
a clone.
Drool? There's I
Maybe.
think there's a Moose Drool or something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
That's
So
commercial.
that's where they
Yeah.
came up with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I didn't realize that, and like honestly, it didn't blow my hair back. It wasn't great. It was all right, and maybe it's just because I wasn't a fan of that beer. I don't know if I did it wrong, but it was all 1 gallon batches. Did a bunch of 1 gallon batches.
Oh, see, I never did a small batch. I went straight to the 5 gallons, but I went to Walmart and I got one of their stainless steel pots. They had I think it's right at 5 gallon pot. So I had to do the boil, maybe a couple of gallon boil. I think maybe up to 3 gallon boil. But by the time you add whether it's dry malt extract or the liquid extract, it's you got to watch it close.
Oh yeah, like even
Yeah.
with because I mean Northern Brewer, their marketing is, I think it's ingenious, because they say if you can make a box of macaroni, then you can brew a beer.
Oh yeah.
And
no doubt.
honestly, it's just following instructions.
Yeah.
They give you all the instructions. They make it foolproof, and they tell you,
No doubt.
watch it, because boil over is going to be real sticky and it's not going to be
Oh
fun.
yeah.
So luckily I haven't had boil over, not with beer. I mean, I've boiled over plenty of food, but beer I never have for
It's
somehow.
happened to me several times. Maybe I'm easily distracted, but that's why I'm surprised you'd never had a boil over.
I mean,
I thought everybody had.
You've seen the way I brew, and you see that I'm not detail oriented, and I get distracted myself. So I'm just as surprised.
Yeah.
Like today, if you wouldn't have said, "Hey, you might want to leave that lid off," I would have put it on, and it would have boiled over
Yeah.
easily.
It can. I mean, yeah. That's exactly how it's happened to me. I'm thinking I'm maintaining a good solid boil.
Right.
'Cause I got a lot of volume there. I would put the lid on so that it'll boil faster. But you forget, man. Once it hits that point, it'll just.
Right. Which today it wasn't that bad. After 10 minutes or so, that foam went down, and I was able to put the lid back on, and had no problem.
Yeah.
Like no more problem with the foam. I think after a good 10 or 15 minutes, it kind of goes away. So
Yeah.
so wasn't
Yeah,
bad.
usually that they call it the hot break. You know? But all that basically acts like a blanket, and allows that heat to build up under there, and then it just kind of
breaks at one point.
breaks and
Yeah, and then
makes a big mess.
and then you're all good. So today we bottled the that pumpkin spice IPA. It's a milkshake IPA. I did not think it tasted bad.
I thought it tasted nice.
You normally don't bottle.
I don't.
So, and I know you probably heard a lot of horror stories. Was bottling as bad today as you thought it was going to be?
No, it was
It's just
very
time-consuming.
easy. Yeah, little time consuming, but it really wasn't bad, especially with a couple of people working together. That was
Doing it by
that went
yourself,
like
it's
nothing.
miserable.
All bet.
I've tried.
Yeah.
You know how many times I spilt beer and
All bet. Yeah.
haul it at the kids. Hey, you got to come here and hold this for me.
Hold this. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have two hands, or two sets of hands, it's not hard. It's just like I said, it's time consuming.
Yeah. Well, I can see. The things when I first looked into it, I can't even remember how I first heard about homebrewing, but it was one of those things that I just stumbled across it or something. I was like, that sounds interesting, and so I was able to sell it to the wife.
No, nice. Yeah.
Like we all sell it to the wife, right? It's like, honey, think of how much money I'll save on beer if I'm making my own. This only costs, with extract, which is more expensive for a 5-gallon batch. I think when I started 5-gallon batch with extract, it costs about $35 or whatever. And you do the math.
Not
That's
bad.
a lot less expensive.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Like
And,
this one I think cost me like $45 maybe.
Yeah.
So $50 for 60 beers, roughly, is
Right.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's
Do the
less,
math
that's less than going and buying 6-packs.
Well, that all applies when you first get into homebrewing.
Yeah.
Problem is that when you get into homebrewing, then you want to take the next step, and you get like your grandfather, like you got.
Right. You start investing, and you can't.
And that hobby that was going to save you money now becomes a real.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like that's the way it is with any hobby, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It starts out small, and then it expands, and you just keep putting money in, more money into it, and more money into it. Yeah.
No doubt.
But that means that just means that you enjoy it, though.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all that means. So I got to tell you, and if you have more of it, I'm gonna have to get some more of it, because that wit that you brought over a couple weeks ago
Thought about bringing some. I still have some.
was so good. Like
That
I finished it the next day because I didn't want it to go. I didn't want it to, like, the carbonation to run away from it.
Yeah.
And it's so good. You're right. The orange it's heavy on it, and I like that.
Yeah.
Like the orange is heavy and it's good. It makes me not have to add the extra orange to it.
That's probably the beer I'm most proud of out of all the ones I've made so far.
Yeah.
That one, and it's from my first 10-gallon batch in my new system. So that turned out so good. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do that one many times, I think.
Dude, let's do it. Let's do a 10-gallon batch. I'll go in on it and we'll just split it.
It's not that bad when you start getting up there, where you're doing the all grain stuff. You're getting the bitter orange pills and stuff like that come in the 1-ounce bags, and those can get a little expensive.
Yeah.
So it takes
How
quite
many
a few.
ounces did you put into it? Do
I
you
think
remember?
it called for 5.
5 ounces?
And
Okay.
I felt like that was a little much. I was like, oh. I went ahead and bought 5, and I ended up only putting 3 in.
3, okay.
Now I wish I would have gone ahead and put all 5 in, because I think, but it also called for like 5 ounces of crushed coriander.
Yeah.
Which I think, that was probably a little bit much. I probably should have put less of that. But yeah, I think it turned out really, really nice.
So it
Very
asked
drinkable.
for 5 ounces of crushed coriander. How much did you end up putting into it?
Now I'm thinking back.
Because it makes me wonder if you would have put the extra orange peel, if it would have balanced out.
Might have balanced out. That's
Because
a good
I know,
point.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was well balanced as it was, but as I found, you're your own worst critic.
Always. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, you're probably right. I think I did put the full amount of coriander, whatever it called for.
Yeah.
And I should have gone ahead with the full amount.
Yeah,
of,
no, I think it might have helped.
orange. Yeah.
Like, not that, like I said, it was a great beer.
Yeah.
The next day was great.
Well, I've had
Watching football and drinking the beer was awesome because the Niners played the next day. So having a good beer with the good football was fun.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, I really liked that one.
Well, the cool thing about that one is I even my sister doesn't like beer. She's not a beer drinker. Maybe she was just trying to be nice. I don't know. I've had her try other beers that I've made, and she's not a fan. But she's willing to try this one. She actually drank a glass. She liked it a lot.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if it's basically just the style that it's if it's.
So
she
you
didn't
may
think it
know
tasted like beer,
you
but-
may know more about this than I do. So what's the difference in say like an American wheat and a wit beer?
My understanding is that the typically, so the wit it's going to be in the yeast strain used, I think,
Okay.
and it's going to be in the. Other than that, I'm not sure. Let me see.
Because I know because me and Larry did a peach wheat, and it was just an American wheat. So I think it called for that 05 yeast, which I think is just an American ale yeast.
Yeah.
So not
This
anything
was-
weird.
I think. I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but this was I want to say this was a specific for Belgian. Yeah, that's right. It was I can't think of the name. It's one of the, but it is a Belgian ale yeast.
Like a Belgian style yeast.
Yeah, it's
okay.
one of those. So it's so I think it's all in the yeast primarily. Other than that, I feel like it's very close to like a regular wheat.
Like a part of me wants to go out and I will do it again. I want to do that peach wheat again.
Yeah.
And just compare the wheat versus a wit, like just do them side by side
we should
and
do
really
that.
see what the differences are.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah,
We'll do 10-gallon batch at my house and come over the next weekend or whatever and do
do
5-gallon here.
5-gallon there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, a part of me says I should
I always
have.
like that. I always like trying the different.
See, and I never thought about it. So today
Back to back.
it's gonna be cool because we ended up having more than 5 gallons of that brown ale, and we had to put more of it into that 1-gallon carboy.
Yeah.
And I'd already used the yeast, so both of those are going to be fermented with different yeast. So we're going to see how those turn out, which I think
that'll
is
be
going to be
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I mean I've heard stories about the yeast makes a big difference, and there's a
yeah.
huge science to it. I mean I got a book, but I don't go into the yeast section. I mean there's like 8 pages about yeast, and I'm I tend to fall asleep and nodding off. Because there's so much science
Honestly,
to it that I don't
I'm
know.
just getting into it. Honestly, I've in the past I've always gone into homebrew headquarters or whatever and said, "Hey, I'd like to do, this." Usually it's a clone. Occasionally it's like,
okay.
"Hey, I'd just like to, can you help me do it?" And I'll whip out one of those books, photocopy that recipe, and then
I write it down and come in and say, "Hey, this is what I want," and they're just always like, "Okay, cool, easy."
See, I only recently started doing that, and
okay. I don't like seeming like an idiot when I go somewhere. And now, granted, do I ask 1,000 questions while I'm there? For sure.
Sure,
But I want to act like I know what I'm doing while I'm there at least.
Well, I feel like that's one of the things I liked most about being able to go actually into a store, and talk to a real person, and
Right.
Ordering online is one thing, and it can be very convenient, but if you don't know where to start, I mean, they make it easier today by doing these kind of pre-boxed recipes, and they'll
Right.
do seasonal stuff, and when it's the right time to brew an Oktoberfest, they advertise these Oktoberfest recipes, and it's all kind of there.
Done
and
a lot of those prepackaged.
those are nice.
Done a lot of them.
Yeah. But I always like to go in and be like, hey, I want to try something different. Like I remember going in and doing the.
See, so you've like almost built your own recipes. I mean, with someone else's guidance.
Oh no!
No? Oh, okay.
They would crack open. So there are many recipe books out there.
Yeah.
That have clone recipes. I mean, any commercial beer, any microbrew beer,
Right.
you'll be able to look up and find someone's someone's version of the recipe, whatever.
Right.
And so they will just photocopy that, give you the ingredients, and that that photocopy includes the instructions.
Okay.
And so early on, it was like, checking off the list, okay,
Yeah.
bring it to a boil. We're going to boil this long. And then we add, so following it to a T.
Right.
Only recently have I gotten to the point where I'm trying to build my own recipes, and so I did the Beersmith 3 thing and all that. But even then, I like to, if I just, like when I decided I wanted to do that wit, I told you I'm a bit of an over researcher. I don't know what the word is, but I
Sounds fun.
I kind of take it I take it too far probably, because I probably looked up 20 different recipes of a Belgian wit.
Oh, okay.
And like, especially ones that had reviews,
Yeah.
it's like that where someone had something to say about it, and took kind of tried to understand what the formula for it was generally, and tried to create something that was kind of what I felt might be the best result.
Right.
What might bring about the best
So
result.
did you just like look through it and go, hey, I'm going to take pieces from this and pieces from that and like
A little
makeshift
bit.
one a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, because I've either found it in this book or I've whatever the first link that comes up on Google and just said, you know what, I'm just going to write this one down and go with it.
Well, I mean, in some ways that's better, because
I'm looking for
end up
just
spending a lot of time.
I mean, I can imagine that you definitely can. I'm like, I just want a basic style, and then I always add something extra to it. I always do. I need
I've
to
noticed
stop doing that sometimes.
You're adventurous, and I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, but
wish
a part of me says that I should get the style down first
Yeah.
and then add something to it. Like the more I think about it, like if I'm doing it from a logistical standpoint,
Right.
you want to get something perfected first
Yeah.
and then branch off of that. And I think that when I do add extra stuff to it, it like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like covers up some of the failures or some of the mishaps that I may have done. Some of the
that's
mistakes,
possible.
I guess you could say.
Yeah,
It like
maybe.
covers some of the mistakes because you're getting some of those other flavors that may cover up some off flavors that you normally would
Right.
be super prevalent. If I
Yeah.
can talk.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's possible, but ultimately I think it comes down to, I mean, what I've heard said many, many, many times when you're talking about homebrewing is you brew something you like to drink.
Right.
So you go out somewhere and you have a new beer and it's like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. I love it. And you go to, you log it or whatever, and hopefully
Right.
you remember it next week when you decide to make a new. But
I mean, I have gotten good at writing stuff down.
yeah.
Writing a little bit more notes down. I even have notes about the beers that I've had, and like maybe I want to add more alcohol or more of this flavor to it. So if I do it again, I know what to like change a little bit.
Yeah.
Because none of them have turned out the way I wanted them to. I've never had one beer that turned out the way I wanted it to. All the beers, it's either like I brewed a stout and it needs to be higher in alcohol, or I've put this flavor into it and that flavor is not as strong as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
They've all been, like I said, they've all been drinkable. They've drank and
That's
they've
the
been
most
fine.
important
Like they
factor.
haven't been terrible.
That's the most important factor.
Right.
It's drinkable, right? All the rest of it is just cake, right? If it's
Exactly.
and oh no, that means I have to try to make it again.
Right.
Dang.
See, and that's one thing I haven't done. I've never done the same beer twice.
I've only done that. Well, I mean, I guess I have to say I've done Vienna lagers many, many times.
Yeah.
But most of the time, that last one you had, this one is the first actual lager I've done. The rest of them been ales.
Okay.
Yeah, but
this is the one that you actually lagered.
Yeah, that's the one I actually lagered.
Which is the lower temperatures and then raising temperatures at the end, like you mentioned earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only difference in like a lager and an ale.
Well, it's.
I mean, it's different yeast. I'm assuming too.
Yeah. Well, it's the temperature that it ferments at, and so typically they say lager yeast like to ferment at a lower temperature, in the 50s, 54 to whatever 60 or whatever, whereas ales like to ferment in the 61 to 72 range.
I gotcha.
But people are saying, I mean, today. A lot of people are doing experiments with that and saying, dude, I fermented this lager yeast at 70 degrees and it's fine. And so I think we're starting to come to a point in homebrewing or brewing maybe generally, that we're able to kind of see things and say, well, we thought this was a big deal. We had to do this if we're making a good beer. Now we're learning that it doesn't always have to be exactly like they used to do it, right?
Right.
So we're that's pretty interesting, I think.
Which it makes me wonder if they're trying to stay like true to like the original style. Because like, have you ever had Franconia's beer out of McKinney?
Oh yeah.
So they are
Love their Dunkel.
a traditional German brewery.
Right.
Like they only do German style beers, and they are as traditional as you can possibly get.
Right.
Like, I figured that out. I had a beer the last year, I want to say. Actually, I think we had it this summer. It was a Radler.
Huh.
And I did not know what this was until recently. I was watching some random videos. You know how YouTube gives you recommendations.
Right.
It gave me a recommendation for a video of beer cocktails.
Huh.
So, like, have you ever had, like, a Michelada?
Yeah.
That's considered a beer cocktail.
Okay.
Okay. So, one of them...
So would a black and tan?
A black and tan would be one.
Or an Irish car bomb. I guess that maybe is slightly outside.
Yeah,
'cause
maybe.
we got liquor.
But, like,
liquor in there.
like a shandy would be considered one, which is, like, a lager and, like, lemonade.
Right.
Essentially, a Radler is very similar.
Okay.
It's
what's in it?
It's not a lager. Maybe it's an ale and lemonade. It's just some sort of beer and lemonade. It's very similar to a shandy.
Okay. Interesting. Huh.
And they brewed one, and that's when I learned what it was. Cool. This is a German thing. This is where they came up with it. And I did more research on the brewery, and like no joke, traditional as you can possibly get.
Huh.
So they're one that I would like to talk to because it's the only brewery that doesn't do. I wouldn't say weird stuff, but weird stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Do some of the off.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said, when something's worked for, thousands of years or 1,000 years, whatever it is, that's there's something to be said for that, right? And it's a successful style of beer that they've been producing for quite a while.
Right.
Something to be said for that, right?
Because like their Kolsch and their Oktoberfest is awesome.
Oh yeah,
both of them are good.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, I've had. I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure if I've had Kolsch, but I know I've had the Oktoberfest. I've had their Dunkel. I love their Dunkel. Very good.
It's got like a guy on the front of it, like lifting weights.
Maybe
I'm thinking.
I think I've always had it in draft.
Really?
I don't know if I've ever bought a bottle.
They have some beer that's got like a old like 50s style, like with the mustache and like a circus guy that's like lifting weights.
Lifting the weights. Strong man.
Yeah, something like that on the cover. I want to say it's a Dunkel too, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, man. I there's something about it where I do like some weird stuff, but there's a limit to it.
Right.
Like I say that because there's like I'm a part of a Facebook group, and it's only because it's hilarious because I like people posting pictures that make fun of Martin House Brewing Company out of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So I love Martin House and I love the stuff that they do, but they've done some really weird stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like
like
hot wings beer.
Did they
hot
do
wings
I
and
think
a
they did a
ranch.
pizza beer.
Oh yeah, I've had that. It's called Space Pizza.
Yes.
Larry described it as it's like tomato soup. So he's like, "Where's my grilled cheese?"
Well, for me, it was more like if your pizza fell in water or something, you spilled your Sprite on it, watered down Sprite on it, and then you took a bite of it. It's weird. It's interesting. I mean, it's definitely you taste. To me, at least, I tasted the pizza. It was like, oh my gosh, it does taste like pizza. But I'm like, why would I want to drink a pizza beer?
Right. It's one of those where you drink one, and that's enough.
Now their pickle,
their best made pickle is really good.
Awesome! I love it.
It's I would say it's the best pickle beer that I've had.
I agree.
Now, have you had any of their variations of it though?
I think I had a hot version, a spicy version.
See, I haven't had any of the variations. I know that they did a hot one.
Yeah, that's
I want to say they did like a Michelada one, where it's almost like a Bloody Mary almost.
Yeah,
that didn't sound like a bad idea. But then they just started doing like a pickle one, like not a pickle one, a grape pickle, something or other.
Grape pickle.
I don't like grape flavor. I don't like anything fake. So like grape or like blue raspberry, no thanks.
Well, it doesn't seem right for a beer. But,
I'm not 5.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, do you like sours?
Oh, I love a sour. Sours
So,
are great.
I never thought I would, and I've realized, man, they're one of my favorite styles. I mean, it's not something I want to come home from work and crack open a sour. It's I want to have a traditional beer probably, but when I want to mix it up a little bit, man, I love those. I love sours as long as it's not overpoweringly sour. I like the ones. I prefer the ones that are kind of mildly sour. You know, it doesn't make you feel like you're
your jowls are hurting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I've felt that. I like a good sour honestly during the summer when it's hot.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like Dogfish Head does one that's called the sequential ale.
Yeah, sequench ale.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like a little salty.
It's made with like sea salt and black lime peel.
Yeah.
Because I had to look up what black lime peel is,
Huh.
and black limes are essentially fermented, nearly rotten limes.
Weird. I guess I haven't read the can on that one. I've had it before.
That's
I like
one
it.
thing that I do like about like 903 does it. Dogfish Head does it where they list some of the ingredients.
Right. They
I like
they
that.
actually
Like
tell
the
you how they.
additives.
Yeah, because that's interesting to me. Because
Right.
we're interested in how beer's made, right, and how they came up with that flavor. So, yeah, that's yeah. Some of them don't. It's like, what is that? You don't even know what it is.
Right.
You're having to guess what the flavor is, which I guess is good too. But my palate isn't quite as
It's-
good enough to
Right.
identify some flavors. So it's
Like-
kind of nice to read, be like, oh yeah, that's what that is.
Which makes me want to try this now that I think about it, because they do a wit, or maybe it's just an American wheat. They call it the Namaste,
I think I've had
and
that.
it's brewed with, I think it's pink peppercorns, some
Yep.
sort of peppercorns,
Right.
and it gives it like this weird, like spice, like
Yeah.
peppery spice on the back end, which is so good.
Yeah.
And it makes me
not
want to
like,
brew a wheat and just throw some peppercorns in it and see how it goes.
can't hurt. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, why not?
As long as you don't overdo it, it can't
right.
hurt. I would say,
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing. Most of the time, it takes quite a bit to come through strongly. So
I've
some
come
of
to
those
find that
flavors-
out.
Yeah, some of those flavors, it's like you add a little bit in it. It just tweak the overall flavor of the beer, but not overpower it. Right. I mean,
Right.
It's interesting, but I'm on the other end. Instead of like you being wanting to experiment, I'm
Yeah.
like, I need someone to tell me that this has brought success before and how much. I want to know in advance. So
Yeah, you want
I
to
guess
get
I'm
it done
not as
right before you
adventurous.
screw it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's fun. I think that's why we kind of work well together,
Yeah.
because you help balance me out in making sure that I get all the steps done right, and that I don't, everything's to temperature, and then I sanitize things correctly, because
Right.
I get lazy and just try to cut corners.
Yeah.
And
It's easy to do.
that's how beers don't turn out exactly the way they're supposed to. So hopefully the Grainfather helps.
Oh, it
keep
should.
me in line, and
Yeah.
it definitely seems the two brews that I've done on it definitely seems.
Yeah, I've
like
been
it's
real
gonna do that.
impressed. I've only brewed on one other system, a friend with a DigiBoil 10-gallon. So similar, I think.
It's
I'm not sure if
another
they're the
all
main-
in one, right?
Yeah, it's another
Yeah.
all-in-one, very similar. And I have to say, very very impressed with both of those, and how it makes it the whole thing more bearable. I like the single vessel systems. I like that. Generally.
So I got to ask you this, and it's going to be a little bit off topic, but like, do you have you ever barbecued like smoked meats?
I've never had a smoker myself, but
Okay.
I've done the get the wood chips,
Yeah.
and soak them and put them in the grill. I have a gas grill. I've done that.
Okay, because like this is what I can compare it to, because I like to do that myself. I have a small family, so I don't really smoke on a smoker per se. I do
Right.
offset heat on like a Weber kettle grill.
Oh yeah,
Heat on one side, the food on the other.
Right.
Does essentially the same thing. It's just a smaller vessel. There's a part of me that likes going out there and kind of stoking the fire and messing with it. And now what's popular right now are these pellet grills,
oh yeah,
which are like set it and forget it.
yeah.
So a part of me is saying, am I going to the pellet grill of brewing, doing a fancy all-in-one, rather than going out there and having to mess with a bunch of stuff and like
Yeah.
almost like stoking the fire.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think that's a good comparison because, what's the selling point of those pellet grills? Is
It's no maintenance.
yeah. Well, it's you get out there as long as you keep the hopper filled,
Right.
and you keep it power to it. It's got the little crank that gives the perfect amount of pellets so that you get exactly the heat that you want.
Right.
The right temperature and so forth. So yeah. I mean, I think that's a good comparison, but even more so, right? Because I don't know, you're talking about a boil and it's telling you when to add the.
Like it's so much so that like today I've actually put everything in there today.
Yeah.
Last time I didn't put everything into it, but you put everything into the app. It actually there's an alarm that goes off to tell me to put in the next batch of hops.
Yeah, that's great.
And it will not go off until you hit a button to say that you've done it.
No, that's great, and I think it's awesome that it comes with the app. Right?
Oh, for sure. The app is ingenious to begin with.
Oh yeah, it makes it so easy. I mean,
having to calculate stuff myself has been it's been all right. Yeah. But like using a fermenting bucket and writing the original and circling approximately what the original gravity is on this side and then approximately what the final gravity is and meeting in the middle and saying this is approximately what the alcohol is. Yeah. Done that for years.
Right. Well, and I mean, the thing that I love about it is, you're like walking away from your boiling batch, in the house, and you just hear the ding go off on your phone or whatever,
right.
And it's like,
because Lord knows you got more stuff to do than
right.
Even if you're brewing, you still have other things going on.
Right. You got to sanitize. You're getting everything ready.
I'm getting ready to cool it down. Got to get these ingredients measured out because Lord knows I don't wake up and get 2 hours in advance to get all that stuff done.
Right. And it's so it's nice having that right there, and you're not going to leave your phone laying there.
Right. And if you do, you hear it go off.
Right.
Because like today, I don't know how many times I lost my phone, just laid it down somewhere, but then an alarm goes off, tells me, oh, it's ready for the boil, or this is done, that part's done. Okay, thanks guys. Cause
yeah, that was nice.
That's
nice.
So I guess I have become one of those pellet grill beer brewers. I don't know.
Hey man,
because I used to make fun of those guys, and now I'm the guy that I made fun of, which is terrible.
Well, I like it because you can. I mean, because now you can with the pellet grills, and it probably applies to those systems too. Is that now you don't have to be. What is it? I mean, when you're smoking something, it's hours and hours,
right?
Overnight sometimes, and so you're tipping back an adult beverage, and you don't have to worry about, I'm gonna miss something. I gotta.
Yeah, which I think hopefully, and we'll find out when these are done carbonating, since we bottled those today. But I think it'll help with nailing down and doing things the right way. Yeah. Rather than not. So if I do have off flavors, I can figure out what happened.
Oh, definitely.
Because everyth's tracked. Like the grain father tracks everything in the app.
Yeah.
Before it's like, well, maybe I didn't have the right temperature. Well, what'd you mash it at? Somewhere between. There's a 10-degree difference because I don't know.
Right.
Like now it's like it's exactly this is what it mashed at. Exactly this. It tracks everything so I can figure out with the issues easier.
Yeah.
Which I think is the real way of brewing. I think before I was just winging it. I don't know.
Makes it so much easier. I mean that's been the big thing. For years and years, the go-to system was the three vessel system, right?
Yep.
And
that's what I used for the longest time.
Well, and I never did that. I did the stovetop stuff, and my intent when I built my new system was to build an all-in-one because I just loved the idea because I basically was doing that on my stovetop.
Oh yeah,
an all-in-one type of process, and it just made sense to me. It's like, okay, I can do the grains, right, and I can pull the grains up. I can sparge them, right there, and a colander over my. That's how I used to do it.
Yeah,
and it was. Super simple. And when I'm done, I dump the grains, and I'm already coming up to boil. It's like so simple.
See, and the thing is, when you mention that, it makes me think, and I've always thought this, but I've never looked into it. Yeah. Is why do people do the three vessel system? It's very common, very common.
Oh yeah, pumps
and everything, gravity, however you do it, rather than a brewery in a bag.
Brewing
Brewing
a
a bag
man.
is essentially what I just did today, except my bag is stainless steel.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Honestly, it's the exact
Yeah.
same thing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It is. It's the exact same thing, and that whole the brew in a bag. I guess that's the I was saying all in one, but that's that's the terminology is the brew in a bag is because then what do? You lift the bag up. In your case, you're lifting a
Stainless steel vessel. I mean,
stainless. Yeah, and you let it drain and you sparge over that, and it's going right into your kettle, and dude, you're done, right? That's nice.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know why people don't do more brew in a bag to begin with. Why they do all these other vessels and have it. I mean, and maybe it's because you can get more temperature control out of some of the other vessels, like the coolers, or
I think it allows definitely more precision. I think.
Okay.
Because they're, when you're talking about sparge, well, how I used to do it is I had a little, one of those little plug-in kettles.
Oh, yeah.
To heat up my water. But it was always kind of oh crap, I overshot it. So I got to wait a minute. Whereas if you have a three vessel system, you can control that a little bit better, especially if you have a control system with it. But
see, honestly, I need to do something like that.
Yeah.
It would save time.
It would
comes
to have
your
another
sparge water together.
Yeah. So now you have, instead of a single vessel system, a 2-vessel system, because you got a separate vessel you're heating the water in, right? So it's like so some people say, you know what, I never sparge, right? I've seen people say, well, I use a Grainfather or something like that, or a single vessel system with a brew in a bag, and I just don't sparge.
So I'm not an expert by any means, and I don't even know all the science behind everything, but I do understand that yeast eats sugars.
Yep.
So I want to get all the sugar I can off of the grains.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I wash the grains to get all the residual sugars off of it?
It makes sense to me.
Like it just logically it makes sense. I don't know why people wouldn't sparge. It seems like it seems to me like you probably would lose alcohol.
Yeah.
Like your alcohol content would be a lot lower, I would think.
Yep, absolutely. It gets a little more complex, can get more complex than that.
I can imagine.
If you didn't get the conversion in your mash,
right,
then you have sugars, but are they the right kind of sugars or whatever? And I'm not an expert there.
Again,
I'm getting
don't
there.
know that much.
Yeah. But hey, it's still, to me, like you said, it makes sense to rinse the grains off, not throw those sugars away. Let me capture them into my, my prized batch of wort.
Well, man, I think it's time for another beer.
I think so.
I appreciate you sitting down with us today, and I appreciate you reigniting the spark of brewing, because it just hasn't been there in a while. And having somebody else that's available and is passionate about it definitely helps. So I love doing it, and I love we need to do the next batch at your house so we can take a look at your system.
Oh yeah.
See how that goes.
Yeah.
See how different the process is. I'm sure the beers will turn out, but when that gets done carbonating, and then we get that brown ale together, we'll definitely have to have those on the show.
Definitely, yeah. We'll do a tasting.
Tasting and see how awful they are or good they are. I don't know. We'll find out.
It'll be awesome.
This one was good.
It'll at least be drinkable. I know
right.
that.
I know you said that there was off flavors. You know what? The off flavors are still good.
Yeah.
I liked this beer a lot. I will have to go on and rate it. What is what is it listed on Untapped?
I think it's just Woot's Vienna Ale.
Woot's
Vienna Lager.
Vienna Lager.
On this one.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's an actual lager. Yeah.
Woot's Vienna Lager.
Sweet. Well, make sure to follow us online at _Dudes and Brews. You can find us on Instagram and Untapped. You're on Untapped as well. Is it just Eric Wooten?
I'd have to look.
You'd have
I haven't
to
looked at it in a while.
Let me just look this up real quick, as weird as this is going to be.
Yeah, sir. You can cut that part out, right?
No, we don't cut anything out. It's all...
Can't remember.
Yeah, it's Woot, the number 1.
Woot 1, yeah.
Just easy enough.
Yep.
But I've come to find that you post on there a lot.
Because
I guess
of my
whenever
job,
you travel.
I'm in sales, so I end up in a lot of different places, and so I'm like, hey, let me try the different beers. I
do the
Austin.
same thing.
I always ask for the local stuff. Where's the local stuff? And if I go somewhere and they don't have any, I try to, it's like, okay, I'm not coming back here tomorrow night.
Do you go to Austin often?
Well, I was in Austin twice this last month, but I mean,
okay.
my territory is central U.S., so.
Okay.
So,
the only reason why I ask is because there's a brewery down there called Jester King. I've only
missed
heard
that
good
one.
things about them, but I've never actually had their beer.
Huh.
I've heard nothing but good things, though.
Huh. I went to, what was the beer I had? Something, it's a pizza place that started their brewery.
Cool.
They had a jellyfish IPA or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Down there in Austin. I can't think of the name of the brewery. I wish I could, but very good. That was an excellent IPA.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, no, man, it looks like I have to go to Austin to get some beer.
Yeah. Oh,
But let's go get
all
some
over,
more
man.
beer.
Absolutely.
We've got new merchandise available, and this stuff is amazing. We've got a few awesome designs. We even have all new pint glasses and stickers. You know you want one of those glasses. I mean, you already drink a beer while watching the show anyway, so you might as well support the show and put your beer in one of our glasses. The link is in the description, so hit that link and pick up something from us today. Make sure that you use the code DUDES10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Again, that's DUDES, D-U-D-E-S, 10, the number 10, 10, at checkout to receive 10% off of your order. We appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Dudes and Brews. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform you're on, we're on there. We have a YouTube channel, Dudes and Brews. We would love if you would subscribe there as well. If you are subscribed and you want to help us out just a little more, unsubscribe and resubscribe again. It sounds funny and stupid and kind of obnoxious, all of the subscribing and resubscribing and stuff, but it helps in these little algorithms games for like climbing the charts, because again, we are organic and we are where we are because of you guys.
Yeah, we really do appreciate your support. Shout us out. We really do love it when you guys interact with us, when you add us, mention us, put us on your stories, tag us, all that fun stuff, all the stuff the kids are doing. We like grabbing that stuff and we put it up for you guys. So we appreciate you so much. Keep having fun, drinking them brews, hanging with them dudes. Tune in next week for another episode of Dudes and Brews.